Hello, Catherine. Sorry I didn't call you back.
Oh, no worries, Brother Shankara. I got kind of busy myself.
We'll talk tomorrow.
Sure. Good to see you, brother.
Good to see you too. Hello, Ashley.
Hello. I appreciate your email about the Hare Krishna.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're another aspect of the great tent.
There's lots of ways to reach enlightenment. I feel like there's not just one right way.
That's right. But there's a right way for each of us.
Absolutely. I agree.
That's the corollary. Namaste, James.
How you doing this evening, Brother Shankara?
Doing well, James. Doing well.
Good.
How about yourself?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Hello, hi, Mom.
Namaste, Brother Shankara.
Namaste. Hello, Dennis. Namaste. Jaime was remarking last night that people are getting used to the class not starting till 8:02.
That's
So
right.
they're not showing up till 8:02 or later.
You gave them those 2 extra minutes.
Yeah. So maybe we'll have to back up and point out that it's best to start at 8 o'clock on time.
I used to have a yoga teacher, Brother Shankara. If people don't show up by exact time, he would close the doors. That's it. No more yoga for them. So whoever enters before that time, that we would get to be in the class. Otherwise, they will have to miss the 3-hour class. They have to miss some of them. You know, then they shaped up with the punctuality.
Well, Swami Yogeshananda was very emphatic about punctuality also. He wasn't quite that fierce, but he would scold people about it.
Yeah, my teacher never scolded. He just locked the doors. That's it. They just cannot.
Good evening, Aaron. Namaste. And Liam. Good evening, Liam.
Hey, Brother Shankara.
Hey. And Keith, is it Keith? No, Keith Hunt. Yeah, Keith.
Yeah. Namaste.
Namaste, Keith.
Brother Shankara,
Yes, dear.
I noticed that you record these meetings that we have. Do you post them somewhere?
Yes, they're on the Vedanta Center of Atlanta YouTube channel.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know sometimes I miss class and then I feel like maybe I don't quite understand as well the next time. So if I could do my homework, if I miss, that would be nice.
Well, it's usually up within 2 days after the class itself. So
Awesome.
today being Wednesday, it should be up by Friday.
Okay, thank you.
Brother Naveen, namaste, Hari Om.
Namaste, namaste everybody.
Hello there, Swayam, namaste, dear. All right, it is 8:02. Oh. Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Mavid Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace. Peace be unto all joyous and suffering beings everywhere. So we're taking up the Gita. We are in the midst of a description by Sri Krishna of which approach is the greater. Notice that he doesn't condemn any. There's no judgment. He simply does some comparison and contrast. And so we'll start with this. Great is that yogi who seeks to be with Brahman, greater than those who mortify the body. And I guess all of you know that there are in virtually all of the spiritual traditions those who torment the body, actually, in order to subdue their passions and so on. The danger of that path, the danger of that self-mortification is pride. And so this is why Sri Krishna says, great is that yogi who seeks to be with Brahman. By seeks, he means applies to the divine presence, whether it be in the form of Krishna or other. It asks, seeks. Great is that yogi who seeks to be with Brahman, greater than those who mortify the body, greater than the learned. Why greater than the learned? We can be intellectually completely conversant with all of the principles and practices of God realization. We can have them all down. We can memorize the Gita. We can memorize the Chandi. We can be fluently adept at chanting them in Sanskrit. But unless we have assimilated their teachings, we are simply learned, not realized or not moving more swiftly along the path. Greater than the learned, greater than the doers of good works. Why greater than the doers of good works? Again, the difficulty with doing good works is it leads to a sense of self-importance. It leads to a sense of I am somebody because I am able to do this and I am doing this. And that is an obstacle. So it isn't that you shouldn't do good works. It's simply that that should not be the emphasis. So greater than the doers of good works. Therefore, Arjuna, become a yogi. He gives me, the yogi, or she, the yogi gives me all his heart. He worships me in faith and love. This is the difference between the learned and the yogi. He worships me in faith and love. He gives me all his heart. In other words, he turns inward to find me. Therefore, Arjuna, become a yogi. He gives me all his heart. He worships me in faith and love. That yogi, above every other, I call my very own. What does it mean to call someone your very own? To have a profound, intimate relationship with them. And that's what Krishna means, because that's what that yogi seeks. That's what that seeker, that spiritual aspirant seeks. They seek to have this profound, intimate relationship. Grant me, O Lord, Chaitanya says, grant me, O Lord, a steadfast love for thee. So that's the end of chapter 6. Before we go on to chapter 7, are there any questions based on what we've been reading the last couple of weeks? This definition of who is not the most accomplished yogi. All right. Chapter 7, knowledge and experience. What is it we're talking about here? Knowledge is one thing. Not, as I said, you can know the scriptures, you can know a great deal, but until you have experience of the divine presence and its work within you. Swami Prabhavananda used to say, we're like a light bulb. We're like a light bulb. As long as the current is not turned on, the light bulb is just a glass sphere with some materials inside. The moment the light bulb experiences electric current, it glows, it becomes itself. Now, we are experiencing that current all the time. We wouldn't exist without it. But for the most part, because of our distractions, we think we are the current. We think we're producing the current. And we misunderstand our glowing to be something of our own making, of our own production. Krishna is going to straighten that out for us. Sri Krishna, devote your whole mind to me and practice yoga. What does it mean to devote your whole mind to me? It means divinize everything in your life. It means give everything a Godward turn. When I first ran across this description of an activity of Holy Mother and her attendants and her niece and so on, of taking their hair cuttings and their nail clippings and offering them to the goddess Shitala, was the local deity, the local form of the goddess. I thought, what a curious thing. This is a cultural thing. But then it occurred to me, no, that's not it. This is making even this simple thing of having hair clippings and nail clippings, giving that to a Godward turn. So offering everything to the divine presence, even your hair clippings and your nail cuttings. Now, I'm not suggesting that's something you need to do. I'm not saying it's a practice you need to adopt, but it certainly is a way of thinking, of giving everything a Godward turn. Then your whole mind is occupied with, as he said, devote your whole mind to me. He'll elaborate on this. Devote your whole mind to me and practice yoga. By that he means concentration, contemplation, and meditation. Take me for your only refuge. No refuge in the world. No refuge in fame, fortune. No refuge even in friendships. Not that friendships should be abandoned, but that's not your refuge. As Swami Prabhavananda used to say, I know you don't like to hear it, my dears, but as I've told you many times, the only one who is truly your own is somebody's got their audio on and there's a good deal of noise in the background. Could we turn that audio off so that we don't hear that noise? Thank you. I know you don't like to hear it, Swami Prabhavananda would say. But as I've told you many times, the only one who is truly your own is the Lord. And so this is why we're encouraged not to try and take refuge in personal relationships. Doesn't mean we shouldn't have strong personal relationships, but not to be dependent on them. Take me for your only refuge. I will tell you how, by doing this, you can know me in my total reality without any shadow of doubt. I will give you all this knowledge and direct spiritual experience besides. So notice his differentiation between the knowledge and then the experience. So I'll tell you how to do it. That's the knowledge. That's the Shravana. And then I'll give you direct spiritual experience, which we have through advanced manana and nididhyasana, making these things our own and then insisting on the truth of them as being greater than any other form of reality. I will give you all this knowledge and direct spiritual experience besides. When a man has that, nothing else in the world remains to be known. If you remember Sri Ramakrishna, when his older brother, wanted him to get more education so that he could earn more money, Sri Ramakrishna said, I don't want a breadwinning education. I don't want a breadwinning education. I want to know that by which all else is known. This is what Sri Krishna is pointing to here. When we have that direct spiritual experience, nothing else in this world remains to be known. And then Krishna asks, who cares to seek for that perfect freedom? One perhaps in many thousands. Then tell me how many of those who seek freedom shall know the true, total truth of my being. Perhaps one only, one of many thousands. Now that could be a daunting calculation for us until you think, why not me? There are many, many thousands within a rifle shot of where I am. Many of them will not seek any spiritual realization. Many of them will make some attempt. Why not me making enough effort? Tell me how many of those who seek freedom shall know the total truth of my being. Perhaps one only. But each one of you that is on the screen this evening can be that one among many thousands. My prakriti is of eightfold composition. Now, you will recognize Krishna beginning to impart the knowledge that separates worldliness from spiritual understanding. And you'll recognize it as the Sankhya formulation. The Sankhya means enumeration or counting. So you'll notice he starts off, my prakriti is of eightfold composition. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intellect, and ego. These are the components of your being. These are what make up your being. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intellect, and ego. You misunderstand that behind this and distinct from it is that which is the principle of consciousness in all beings and the source of life in all. It sustains the universe. So your corporeal being, your gross body and your subtle body, are made of that eightfold composition. But he says, don't be deceived. Behind that, you must understand that behind this and distinct from it is that which is the principle of consciousness in all beings and the source of life in all. It sustains the universe. And you can come to feel this as you practice do your spiritual practices. You will come to what Swami Prabhavananda referred to as feeling the living presence. You will feel the living presence that is the animating principle and the sustaining principle in you. Know this, my prakriti, united with me, the womb of all beings. I am the birth of this cosmos, its dissolution also. I am he who causes, no other beside me. In the evening prayer we hear, speech cannot hold thee, nor mind. In other words, there's no way that our finite mind can grasp the reality, capital R. Speech cannot hold thee, nor mind, yet without thee we think not, nor speak. I am he who causes, no other beside me. Upon me these worlds are held like pearls strung on a thread. There are many inhabited worlds. We're one. Upon me, these worlds are like pearls strung on a thread. I am the essence of the waters, the shining of the sun and the moon. Om in all the Vedas, the word that is God. It is I who resound in the ether and am potent in man and woman. I am the sacred smell of the earth, the light of the fire, life of all lives, austerity of ascetics. Know me, the eternal seed of everything that grows, the intelligence of those who understand, the vigor of the active. In the strong, I am in the strong. Oh. It's doing that thing of going backwards. In the strong, I am the strength unhindered by lust and the objects of craving. So our strength in the truly strong, there are no obstacles to that strength, unhindered by lust and the objects of craving. I am all that a man may desire without transgressing the law of his nature. There is such a thing as legitimate desires. They are not the same thing as cravings. Cravings are a restlessness of the mind, a desire to be outside that particular moment and in some other moment. But there is absolutely nothing wrong with us desiring to have enough to eat, a decent place to live, suitable clothing, a loving family, good friends. All of these are legitimate desires. So this is what he means. I am all that a person may desire without transgressing the law of his nature. So that's a good place to stop and ask for questions, I think, questions or comments, because he's going to take off now into another aspect of Sankhya, the Gunas and so on. So are there any questions or comments about what's been read so far?
Right. Brother Shankara,
Mm-hmm.
can you just explain what is transgressing the law of nature?
Not the law of nature, the law of that person's nature.
Oh,
That's what the text says.
oh.
The law of your nature, and each of us is the umbrella word is dharma. You have your swadharma and so on, your personal way of being. But transgressing the law of your nature means looking outside the legitimate desires. And this is just a kind of aimlessness and fruitlessness. It isn't the end of the world. We have, and this is something we should always keep in mind, we have that absolutely compelling parable of Christ, of the prodigal child. No matter what we have done, how foolishly we have behaved, when we turn our face toward home, as the parable says, the Father comes running across the valley towards us, embraces us, and makes us one with the family again, so to speak, one with Him again. So let's just read that again, just so that it's clear. I am all that a person may desire. Krishna, he's saying, Krishna, the divine being. I am all that a person may desire without transgressing the law of his nature. So the divine being, what is the nature of the divine being? To create, sustain and protect, and then to transform, to dissolve and create something anew. So the sustaining and protecting all of our legitimate desires, all of our dharmic desires are within that sustaining and protecting bracket. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with any of that. That's what Krishna is saying. You are seeking, I am those things. I am in the form of Vishnu, in the form of Lakshmi, in the form of the Devas. I am those things. So it's not transgressing the law of nature, but transgressing the law of your own nature, which is dharma.
Thank you.
Anything else? That was a very appropriate question. If there's a misunderstanding, let's get it out of the way. Okay. So now we're going to plunge into another discussion of the gunas. And it's good for us to understand the gunas, because when we see these forces, these attributes appearing in us, we can say, oh yes, that's rajas playing across my samskaras, my karma. That's tamas playing across the mental impressions that I've gathered all these many, many lives. This is sattva soothing me. So and now remember, this is all Krishna giving the knowledge that allows a person to separate themselves from the illusion and grasp the reality, seek and grasp the reality. So this is more of the knowledge that will, when we understand it and apply it, allows us to see, oh, this is just part of the illusion. This is not me. I am that. Capital T. I am that. So now we're getting a more description of how the illusion works. You must know that whatever belongs to the states of sattva, rajas, and tamas proceed from me. They are contained in me, but I am not in them. In other words, it isn't Krishna doing this to us. It's simply an artifact of duality, of the duality. It's simply, that's how duality works. They are contained in me, the reality, but I am not in them, the illusion. The entire world is deluded by the moods and mental states, which are the expression of these three gunas. I'm going to repeat that. It's something we should virtually memorize. The entire world is deluded by the moods and mental states, which are the expression of these three gunas. These gunas playing across the background of our mental impressions, called samskaras, and our karma, cause our moods and mental states. We are to see them just as that, moods and mental states. That's not me. That's just what's occurring with this action and experience suit that the Atman wears. These are the expressions of these three gunas. That is why the world fails to recognize me as I really am. I stand apart from them all, supreme and deathless. Why does he point toward deathless? Because all of those things that are produced by the gunas arise and pass away, including our action and experience suit, even in its subtle form. So all of those things arise and pass away. I stand apart from them all, supreme and deathless. He can also say changeless, eternal. How hard to break through is this my Maya, made of the gunas. So Krishna admits that we, the divine person that we are, we have created this for ourselves, and now it's hard to break through. We are that. We are the divine being. That's what he said earlier. But we are seemingly imprisoned in this action and experience suit that is made of and constantly influenced by the effects of the gunas. How hard to break through is this my Maya, the illusion, the delusion. How hard to break through is this my Maya, made of the gunas. Now, he's given the knowledge. Now he's talking about the experience. But he who takes refuge within me only shall pass beyond Maya. He and no other. So not taking refuge in anything made of the gunas, but he who takes refuge within me only shall pass beyond Maya, he and no others. He and no other. The evildoers turn not toward me. These are deluded, sunk low among mortals. Their judgment is lost in the maze of Maya. What is the maze of Maya? This action and experience suit, we're told, is made of 5 sheaths. It is a hall of mirrors. Each of these layers of us reflects the reality a little differently. And so it creates a bewildering situation. Your food body, your outermost body, may say, oh, I want this particular wonderful food. And your mind and intellect will throw up an objection, but it's not good for you. And so you right away have an argument within yourself. And that you can think on that for yourself and see how each of the 5 sheaths, the food body, the energy body, the mind body, the intellect body, the bliss body, these each have their own way of reflecting the reality. And so it is bewildering. And so Krishna calls it the maze of Maya. They're lost in the maze of Maya until the heart is human no longer, changed within to the heart of a devil. And we can look around in the world and see such beings. It's not hard to think of people who fit this description. Among those who are purified by their good deeds, there are among those who are purified by their good deeds, there are 4 kinds of men who worship me. Now again, Krishna's giving a kind of knowledge, but he's also pointing to the kind of experience that each of these 4 kinds of people, he says men, please keep in mind, this is just an artifact of the time in which the patriarchal time and place in which this was spoken and written down. It does not exclude women. It does not. I hope that's clear. So there are 4 kinds of people who worship me. The world weary, the seeker for knowledge, the seeker for happiness, and the man of spiritual discrimination. The man of discrimination is the highest of these. Why? Because they have already discerned that there is a reality behind the illusion and are working using their discrimination to say, this is illusion, this is reality, this is illusion, this is reality. The world weary? Well, as Chaitanya says in his prayer, chanting the name of the Lord is a bath for the weary soul. That bath for weary souls. Most spiritual seekers are simply, they've just had it with being in this action and experience suit. They don't see it as an adventure. They don't see it as something worth their time anymore. Well and good. Well and good. You'll notice Krishna affirms those people. All 4. The world weary, the seeker for knowledge, the seeker for happiness. Can't we all raise our hands to one degree or another on that one? We want to be happy. Yes, and the person of spiritual discrimination. The person of discrimination is the highest of these. He is continually united with me. He devotes himself to me always and to no other. For I am very dear to that person, and that person is dear to me. So Krishna says there is a best way to do this, and that is to use your mind, use that aspect of yourself, which we can call the conscience or the buddhi, or however you want to constantly be thinking, does this deserve my attention? Is this the reality? And when you say, no, this doesn't deserve my attention, being willing to relinquish it. Certainly, all these are noble. Certainly, all these are noble. But the man of discrimination I see as my very self. Because that jiva, that person, identifies with nothing else. They don't identify with anything less than the divine presence. They insist that I am that. I am the divine person. The man of discrimination I see as my very self. For he alone loves me because I am myself. Not for the sake of happiness, not for the sake of knowledge, not for the sake of overcoming the weariness, but simply because that's the truth, and the truth is what I cleave to. For he alone loves me because I am myself, the last and only goal of his devoted heart. Through many a long life, his discrimination ripens. He makes me his refuge, knows that Brahman is all. How rare are such great ones. Now let me remind you that you are here on a Wednesday night pursuing this. You have lived many a long life, your discrimination ripening, and you're seeking a way to to make the divine your refuge. You want to know that Brahman is all. You are those rare ones. Don't doubt it. Don't think, oh, I'm not good enough to do that. Or that isn't me. That isn't really me. Let it be thee. Think of yourself that way. Make the divine being your refuge. Know, take a stand for, even before you fully know it, take a stand for the fact that Brahman is all. You are those great ones. Those whose discrimination has been blinded by worldly desires establish this or that ritual or cult and resort to various deities according to the impulse of their inborn natures. But it does not matter what deity a devotee chooses to worship. Now, listen carefully here, because here's one of those promises that we don't want to let slip by us. He's saying, even if you aren't one of these great ones, you may be part of some ritual or cult. You may resort to various deities according to the impulse of your inborn nature. But it does not matter what deity a devotee chooses to worship. If he has faith, I make his faith unwavering. Endowed with the faith I give him, he worships that deity and gets from it everything he prays for. In reality, I alone am the giver. I'll remind you of a story of Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna was well known in the neighborhood where the Dakshineshwar temple was. And so many people would come to see him for spiritual guidance. One day, a very simple and humble man, a farmer, a local farmer, came to Sri Ramakrishna, and he says, you have this reputation of worshiping all the deities, of your heart is fully given to all of these. And he says, I have to be honest with you. None of these appeal to me. None of these deities, with form or formless, none of them make any difference to me. And Sri Ramakrishna asked him a simple question. What do you love? And the farmer thought about it a moment and he said, well, I've raised up a goat from the time it was just a tiny kid. And I love that goat. And Sri Ramakrishna said, and he knew the man would understand what he meant by the word worship. He said, very well, worship that goat. And so the man, being a sincere man, went home and did as he was told. He began to decorate the goat, put garlands on the goat, make ceremonial food for the goat, just as you would for one of the deities. After 3 years, he returned, tears streaming down his face. And he said, now I understand. Because it is the self, it is the divine presence in everything that we love. That and that alone is what we truly love. Yes, there's infatuation. Yes, there's physical intimacy, all of those things. Behind all of that, and what is powering it, is this attraction of the self for the self. So that's what Sri Krishna is pointing to here. Now, this is such an important juncture, such an important point, that I don't want it to go by if there are any questions or concerns that anyone has. Because this is one of the great promises that Krishna makes. One of the great junctures in the Gita where he says, you know, I'm behind it all. No matter how you worship, no matter how you see it. Any concerns or questions?
Brother Shankara,
Yes, Swam.
the 4 kinds of men who worship me, the world-weary, seeker for knowledge, seeker for happiness, and the man of spiritual discrimination,
Mm-hmm.
Are they distinct categories? Now, the last one I can see as being a class of its own, but the first three, could they have overlap?
Of course they do, dear.
Mm.
Of course they do. You can be world weary and seek for happiness, still have a yearning for happiness. You can be a seeker for knowledge and be world weary. But this dawning of discrimination within us, where we've learned what we need to know to discriminate and actually begin to practice it, as you say, that is not a category apart, but it slowly and slowly sets you apart. And that's why you end up in the position that Krishna describes as being the highest. Because you've seen the truth, but not just seen it, you've acted upon what you've seen. And you set aside everything that does not deserve your attention and kept your attention through your discrimination and your ability to release that which does not deserve your attention. You've come to abide in that place of discrimination. And it happens slowly and slowly. But it can happen in one lifetime. It doesn't have to take many lifetimes. But this is particularly the promise of Sri Ramakrishna. Why he came. How great was thy sacrifice, freely choosing thy birth in this prison, our iron age, to unchain us and set us free. Thank you, Swayam. Good question,
Thank you, Brother Shankara.
as always. Anybody else? Anything else?
Still not clear how worshiping the goat was worshiping God.
Because the self is in the goat.
Hmm.
There is nothing that powers anything except the self. That's why the farmer loved the goat. Sri Ramakrishna knew it, but the farmer didn't know it until he began to worship the goat and began to see what it was. It wasn't the physical form of the goat that he loved. It wasn't the goat's cute ways and nice form. As his mind was disciplined by the practice of worship, he saw that there's something behind, something within. And that's what he meant when he came and said, now I understand. Brad, read. Do you have a copy of the Upanishads?
I have some of the Upanishads, not all of them.
Okay.
I've got the Rig Veda. I've got the Rig Veda.
No, that's not what I'm pointing to. There's a sage named Yajnavalkya. He's featured in an Upanishad called the Great Forest Upanishad, the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. He expounds at some length about the nature of the self and why it is that we love or are attracted to anything. It is for the sake of the self, capital S self, the divine presence. That anything at all really compels our attention. It's because of the presence of the self.
So when Krishna says, but he who takes refuge within me only, does that mean that one guy should have taken refuge in the goat? Thinking of the goat as the self, capital
No,
S?
he came to understand the self was in the goat and took refuge in the self.
Hmm.
Don't think of the goat as goat. Without the self, the moment the self leaves the goat collapses on the ground. We call it dead. This is very good, Brad. I'm glad you're pursuing this. That there is nothing whatsoever that lives and breathes, yea, even unto the plants, and we can't see it because our vision is so limited, but even what seems to us inert is alive. And it's alive, it exists because it is filled with consciousness or the self. So the man told the truth to Sri Ramakrishna, the farmer. I love my goat. And so Sri Ramakrishna said, very well, worship the goat. And the man knew what Sri Ramakrishna meant by worship. Do the formal worship of that which you love. And having done that for long enough, it became clear to the man what it was he was worshiping. That which animated the goat was what caused him to love the goat. And that which animates everything is and only is the self. And that's what Krishna meant when he says, it's all me, the self. Anything else?
Brother Shankara, this is Haima.
Yes, Haima.
This reminds me of when we were growing up in India, our elders told us, Manava Seva is Madhava Seva, which is serving human beings is serving God, because we are all one. When we serve others, there is God in that too, right?
Yes.
It's similar to,
Well, this is why Sri Ramakrishna said,
yes,
serve Shiva as Jiva.
exactly.
And why Vivekananda then translated that to say, my God is humankind.
Yes. Thank you.
And it's if you look closely at what the Dalai Lama says,
Mm-hmm.
that's what he says also.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Thank you. Thank you, Brother Shankar.
Thank you.
Start of that. So we were always told that, even if you cannot go to temple one day, you serve a human being in need. That means you're serving God.
Yes.
It's like the food bank that people are doing now. What a great service. That's it.
Yes. And all of those people who are
Exactly.
serving
That's right.
the divine in others, whether they know it or not.
Yes. Thank you.
Very good. Anything else?
Brother Shankara,
Yes, dear.
so I feel like this is a pivotal statement, the last statement that we went over, where Krishna says, it doesn't matter what deity a devotee chooses to worship. If he has faith, I make his faith unwavering, and he gets from it everything he prays for. I alone am the giver. I feel like that statement is very unifying, and I feel like religion often creates a lot of divisions
Mm-hmm.
because, you're not doing it the right way. You're not worshiping the right deity or
Right.
deities. And I feel like that's a very powerful statement that he's making there.
Yes, and it underlies the statement that Sri Ramakrishna made of all religions are true. But thank you, Ashley. That's exactly right. And it is pivotal.
It seems like it to me. I mean, that's a pretty big deal.
Yes.
Religions don't say anything like that.
No, they do not. No. No, they say mine, my way, mine, you know. But Sri Krishna is saying, if a person pursues, I think we've all met people of various spiritual traditions, whether it be a Buddhist or a Catholic or so on, that are very sincere in their faith and in their practice. And we find, oh my Lord, this person is truly wonderful. Mm-hmm. This person is marvelous. Mm-hmm. I happen to know they're not members of this congregation. There's a couple, the Archibalds. They are such truly wonderful Christians. I mean, they really practice their Christianity. They really live it. They embody it. And they're just wonderful, delightful people. And you can see that what is powering them from behind is the divine being. It isn't just something of their personalities and their egos. It's far more powerful than that.
I feel like whenever we see that sense of true connectedness, whether it is through someone who's a Christian or Buddhist or whatever faith they have, it really does seem to shine through that their faith is genuine when it really is. It doesn't really matter what they have faith in. And it makes me think of this talk that I listened to by two Native Americans. One is Paul Ortega and the other, I can't remember what his name is, but he's doing this talk and he says, basically, it doesn't matter what you believe in. The most important thing is having belief in something. And it doesn't matter whether it's the goat or whether, it doesn't really matter, but as long as you truly believe in it and you really are, you're not equivocating, you're not one, just kind of pretending or showing up on Sundays, then that is true divine connection, which really seems to apply. And I really feel like that's what Krishna is trying to get at here.
Absolutely. You're dead on. And what he's saying is, if you are sincere, I'll make it work. If you are sincere and faithful, I'll make it work.
I like that. Thank you, Brother Shankara.
Gets from it everything he prays for. In reality, I alone am the giver. Thank you, Ashley. Anything else?
Yes. Brother Shankar, I was curious. I know you mentioned the Upanishads, and I was wondering if there is a level of maturity in the spiritual practice that you should be at before looking into that, and if not, or even if so, could you explain a little bit what one might get from looking into it? And I'm interested in the book.
Into the Upanishads?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. There's a book that you can buy either from here from this bookshop, or you can find it online. It's called Breath of the Eternal, and it's Swami Prabhavananda's translation and commentary on the Upanishads. Now, the reason I say Swami Prabhavananda is that he did not do scholarly translations and commentaries. He created books specifically for us here in the West, so that we could understand what was being said by these towering scriptures in a way that makes sense to us, and we can assimilate it and make it part of our spiritual practice. So if you want to pursue the Upanishads, I suggest you find a copy of Breath of the Eternal. And if you want to discuss anything that you find there, because some of it will no doubt be puzzling. As best Swami Prabhavananda can do, the book isn't 9 inches thick. It's, so there's some stuff that will remain puzzling. But you can always call me. You can always email me, and I'll be happy to discuss these things with you. But the Upanishads are they're distillations of spiritual wisdom by particular sages that not all of the Upanishads will resonate with you, but if you study them, you'll find that one or more will very much resonate with you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome. Anything else? All right, my dears. Well, it's after 9 o'clock, so we'll call it an evening and take it up next week. Thank you all for your contributions. This is what is meant by studying the art of spirituality together. And because when we share with one another our questions, our comments, our concerns, we find that there are others who also have those feelings and thoughts. And so this is the way we build a great confidence in one another and affection for one another. We see, oh, I'm not alone in this. I'm not alone in this. Anything else before I say the closing prayers? Okay. Oh, dearly beloved, a flower at your feet for each one who comes to your open door. A flower at your feet for each one who stands by your open door and says, come to me, offering to break this world's chain that binds us down to ignorance, suffering, and death. A flower at your feet for each one who takes the path that you have struck through this, your jungle world. Om, Amen. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all suffering and joyous beings everywhere. Om Hari Om Tat Sat. So good night, all. Thanks for coming.
Good night, Shankara.
I'll put you in the mother's hands. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Durga, Durga, Durga. Until
Thank you.
see one another next.
Thank you, Brother Shankara. Have a good night.
Good night. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night, Brother Shankara.
Good night, all.